Hello, my name is Carina, and in this podcast, Break Fear, Find Freedom, I have conversations with people just like you who have broken their fear and found their freedom, whatever that may be. And shows you how to do the same. So sit back, relax, grab your coffee or your running shoes, whatever makes you happy, and let the fun begin. Oh, by the way, come take my hand and let's go. The door's opening now.
Hello, everybody. Today I've got a really awesome guest. You are going to love Norman Plotkin. And Norman is a hypnotherapist and a tarot card reader. Now, that's really, very cool. It sounds all woo-woo, but really, Norman has shown that this is really the real thing. And Norman has written a book as well called Mastermind, Master Life. But I'll let him talk about that as well. Hello, Norman. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Norman, tell us a bit about who is Norman Plotkin?
Norman Plotkin is a small town kid who has been fortunate enough to have many travels and live what seems like several lives. After high school, I didn't go right to college. I went in the military. I went in the Marine Corps, and after I did 4 years of that, I worked in the oil fields and then a rock plant like Fred Flintstone, making little rocks out of big rocks. And then I was a construction lineman. I climbed telephone poles, and then my brother was killed in a car accident, and it kind of woke me up. So I made a major change. I moved in with back in with my mom, and I walked on to a community college, and I knocked out my associate degree quickly, a year and a half, and then transferred to the university. So I graduated in 3 years, which most people are taking 4, 5, and 6. And I did student government and speech and debate. And the university I transferred to was here in Sacramento, which is the capital of California, which is like a nation state. And the first semester there, I got an internship in the legislature, and it was a paid internship, which turned into a job, which turned into a 25-year career of, first as a clerk and then a consultant. I ran political campaigns. I became the committee consultant for the health and insurance committees, and where I advised members of the legislature on how to vote on the various pieces of legislation that were going through the process. Then I was hired by the California Medical Association to represent physicians. I represented the roughly 30,000 California physicians who belong to their trade association, their professional society. And I did that for a few years, and then I struck out on my own and opened my own lobbying firm, and represented clients in the petroleum, electricity, and automotive areas. And I love the strategy. I love the policy. I love the campaigns and whatnot. But the politics it's dirty, and it's
Dirty.
Yeah, it's just kind of grind you up and spit you out. And so I got sick. I had cancer. I had papillary carcinoma, thyroid cancer. Then they removed my thyroid and some lymph nodes and gave me a couple rounds of radiation. And at first I thought I wanted to just get back to normal. And it took me a while to realize that normal was what made me sick. And so it returned. I had that second round of radiation, and I decided, teachers began to appear, and I got a whole new perspective. My friend had gotten out of politics and opened a yoga studio, and she took me through therapeutic yoga for cancer and taught me how to meditate. And Pilates to help me gain my strength back, and just yoga for balance, and I learned Ayurveda, which is yogic medicine, and my dosha, which is pitta and fiery, right? And so, and then how to eat for my dosha, and what foods to avoid. And, alcohol is like throwing gasoline on the fire for me, right? And so,
Right.
so I learned a lot about myself, and teachers began to appear. I read Wayne Dyer's Power of Intention, Carolyn Meese's Anatomy of the Spirit, Deepak Chopra's Quantum Healing, and many others. And I began to have a different perspective. And so I was divinely guided to this school. There's a nationally accredited school of hypnotherapy, a college of hypnotherapy in Los Angeles. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time. And as fate would have it, I knew someone who had gone there. I had dinner with her and asked her about it. And I started and never looked back. And so because I was blessed with the ability to adapt and adjust and learn very quickly and use the power of the subconscious mind to manifest, I was very intrigued by the power of the subconscious mind. And especially, for health and wellness. And so I went through the school and just like sponged it up and really, really excited about the practice of it. Hypnosis is, it is a fascinating, it's overly simple, which confuses people. They want some, in this day and age, they want some complicated, process or modality that is administered by someone with the alphabet soup behind their name. And, it's, and in reality, we all have our own answers. And so for those who are open, I've been able to help with just so many amazing experiences of detailed things, medical issues that doctors have not been able to do anything but give pain pills, and whatnot. But so I wrote the book Mastermind, Master Life, which was an effort to help people understand hypnosis. Most people's introduction to hypnosis is at Vegas or on State Fair or some other stage show where they get people to get up on stage and fall asleep and then do funny things. And there's a place for that because it shows how powerful it is. I'm a little uncomfortable by all that. I have colleagues who I went to school with who do stage hypnosis. They enjoy it. It's entertainment. But I'm just taking a more serious approach to it because it's so powerful and it has the possibilities of helping people with a range of so many different things. So in Mastermind, Master Life, I talk about what it is, what's the history of it, what does science say about it, and medicine, and how can you put it to use in your life. So it's kind of a practical guide for people to understand just enough science for those who are inquisitive about what the science says, but not so much that you'll get bogged down in reading it. It's not a scholarly journal. And it's my second book. My first book was called Take Charge of Your Cancer, The 7 Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery. And I really wanted to share what I learned through my cancer experience. It's, it's never just about the cancer. There's so much more. And much of what you experience is disempowering. Yes. Get a second opinion, go where you're told. There's very little information. There's very little instruction. So I stumbled my way into some things, 7 of them. Turns out, as I read and researched to write this book, there's a great book called, there's Mind Over Medicine by Kathy Rankin. And then there was, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name of the book. It's Radical Remission by Dr. Kathy Turner. Yeah. And it turns out she was a psychologist who worked in oncology, and she started asking people who had a very slim chance of survival, but who did survive, what they did. And she said, she asked them if the doctors had asked them, and they said no. So she chronicled these 10 or 12 things that people do. It turns out I stumbled my way to 7 of them. And so I wrote about the things that mattered to me and what helped me feel empowered and to navigate my way through the cancer experience. They're simple things. I didn't make them up. And again, pointing to the power of simplicity. And Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is usually always the best. It was, learn to meditate, radically change your diet, deepen your spirituality, commune with your subconscious mind, release your repressed emotions, and take charge of your healthcare. No one has more skin in the game than you do. And finally, have a reason to live. Don't just not want to die.
I love those. Actually, that's really, really cool. And it's common knowledge. I just want to go back to how things started opening up for you when you actually realized that this isn't working for me. I'm loving it, but it's not working because obviously you were repressing those things, and that's why the cancer came up.
That's right.
What would you attest was that realization? What happened? Did you just wake up one day and realize that, or was it actually the cancer that said, hey, stop this now and change your life?
Well, it was the cancer. I mean, I was feeling, of course, how do you separate it? I think because the thyroid controls everything. And so I was suddenly, I didn't, I couldn't keep up playing hockey. I didn't want to ride my mountain bike. So there was some depression associated, but I think that was just the onset of the cancer. The cancer really focused my mind. I could never conceive. I had friends who left the legislature and went off and did other things. And I thought, how could you leave? This is so amazing. This is, and absent the cancer, I never would have left it. I would have stayed there until it killed me. So, Mark Twain said, nothing focuses the mind like a hanging. And so it's, it's the contemplation of your own mortality. Right. And so, the cancer was what woke me up. My marriage didn't survive the cancer. My ex-wife didn't handle the whole thing very well. And so, it was the cancer that was, and so I wanted to call my book The Unwrapped Gift. And oddly enough, it was what I consider to be my second unwrapped gift. My brother's death in 1988. I had a little bit of guilt associated with this, but I turned my life around. He was pre-med and he really had to try and struggle in school. I never had to try anything. I was blessed and cursed with being very intelligent, but the curse is that I could wing it at a high level. So I never put much effort in. I never put much effort into things, right? Because I could just show up and wing it, right?
Yeah.
So I was very grateful to my brother for waking me up. And then I'm grateful to the cancer. But my publisher said, Norm, cancer probably was a gift to you, but how long did it take you to figure that out? I'm like, yeah, it was a few years. She said, you got to meet people where they are. And when they're in the middle of their cancer, they're not thinking that it's a gift. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So it became Take Charge of Your Cancer, the 7 Proven Steps to Healing and Recovery. But, I'm certified in hypnotherapy for cancer clients, and I have cancer clients. And, using hypnotherapy is super powerful. You visualizations in the control room of your mind and getting your body to cooperate with your doctors and the processes and the drugs and everything. And it's really a powerful influence. I've done, hypnobirthing. I've done pre-surgery, post-surgery. I've helped people with fibromyalgia who, years and years of just taking pills, and now it's gone. And I'm working with clients with MS, with irritable bowel syndrome. And there's a lot of people right now triggered. Old traumas are coming up. There's a lot of fear.
Yes.
There's a lot of fear in the world right now. And
So let's speak a bit about that, because that's what this whole podcast is really about. And I want to go back a bit to the cancer, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are suffering. I mean, cancer is such a big thing, especially here in the States. Certainly everyone you speak to has it in some form or another. How did you feel about that, and how did it trigger? I mean, it must have triggered huge fear within you when you realized that cancer is a terminal illness, right? Well, it was. You've proved otherwise on many levels.
yeah.
But how did you feel about that when you had the realization that, oops, this is real?
So one of the reasons why my ex-wife didn't handle it very well was her brother, her father had died when she was 7, and then she was raised, by her mom and she had an older brother and older sisters who were married and their husbands. So a couple of years before my cancer diagnosis, her brother died of a heart attack, and then just months before my diagnosis, her brother-in-law had pancreatic cancer, and within 3 months from diagnosis to death. And it was very difficult. It was very emotional and heart-wrenching. And then I was diagnosed. And so, the doctors say, well, you have papillary carcinoma. It's well differentiated. It's well understood. It responds well to treatment. If you got to have cancer, this is a good one to have. I'm like, if you got to have cancer, is there any good one to have? But that's what my ex-wife heard you got the one that's good to get. I'm like, so I went in with much bravado. We're gonna beat this. Okay, I got a plan. I got a good surgeon. I got a good endocrinologist. My endocrinologist ended up being diagnosed with leukemia, and I lost the continuity of care right away. Yeah, and that was like, whoa, Dr. Eisenbud.
Whoa.
Wow. Okay, and then so went in with much bravado and bolstered by the prognosis that it was well understood, and my chances are great, and it's no big deal. You got this. And so I'm like, woohoo! All right. And so I had the surgery, and I recovered from the surgery, and they didn't give me the replacement hormones right away, so I was severely hypothyroid.
No.
And then they scanned me, and they gave me a dose of iodine, I-131, which is radioactive iodine. And so they put you in a little room. The doctor comes in with a lead pipe with a lid on it and sets it down and says, "Don't take the lid off until I leave."
Wow.
Then they go out of the door and they leave you to, your radioactive pill, right? So then I had to be sequestered for 3 days. I got a hotel room, can't have the maids come in, can't do, got no one around me for 3 days. And so I did that, and I went back to lobbying. We had a big floor fight. I just went, it was like on a bill that was, very important, and, started drinking again. I didn't change it. I didn't make any changes. And my next scan was in January. It came back. That's when I felt fear for the first time in my life. I grew up on a ranch. I rode bulls and rodeos. I was a Marine. You know what I mean? Fearless. I had no fear. I felt fear for the first time in my life because now what? They've already cut the organ out. They've already radiated me, and it's back. What now? So I had a second round of radiation, but that was like, that fear was, I knew fear for the first time in my life, and it was palpable. It was, you could cut it with a knife. So I was very fearful. And that's when things began to change.
Okay.
That's when I did the yoga and learned about Ayurveda and alternative methods, and got a hold of my, the same mind that made me a great analyst and consultant and lobbyist will keep you nuts at night. That monkey brain was just, that's, you can't call your doctor at 11 p.m. when you have a scary thought. It's so.
Yeah.
So I learned to meditate and get control of my mind. I got in the gym, started working out, and regained my strength. And I began to read Masters of Life. And so yeah, I mean, that was really the first time I experienced fear, was when the cancer came back. And so original surgery was July 11, and 2 months later, the radiation. And then I was radiated on my, it was 2012. So I would have been 48 on my 48th birthday.
Wow.
I was radiated.
What a gift.
Yeah, right. So I just remember talking to my childhood friend who we every year we get together and ski and fish, and he's all over, I'm all over. We don't live in the same area, but every year we get together, and I remember talking to him and saying that, I always could find the trail, the path, and I don't see a path. I don't see, and he gave me some encouraging words, but that was when I understood fear. And because of that experience, what I today, another resource is the Course in Miracles. And
yes.
It's, some psychologists who dared to be spiritual. And so I give all of my clients, whether they work with me or not, and if they come for a consultation, I give everyone this little bit, and it's the Reader's Digest version of Course in Miracles. Love is your birthright. Its opposite is fear. Love resides in your heart space, and in any moment, you can either be in love or fear. You can't be in both, and you're in either or. And so I tell everyone to come up with an image, an icon, or a picture that immediately brings to mind love. A red rose, a red heart, a peace sign, Jesus, whatever it means to you. That seeing this picture, a puppy dog or your baby or your significant other, whatever there's a picture that you see this picture and it brings to mind the notion of love. Just have that in your hip pocket and bring it into your heart space 40 times a day. And pretty soon do it 30 times and then 20.
Oh.
It's because it becomes a practice. It becomes you having love in your heart space. Loving everyone doesn't mean you're going to be a pushover or a doormat. You can stand up for yourself. Just have love in your heart space, right? That person who cut you off on the freeway. Oh, I love you, man. Because when you're fearful and angry and mad, that person doesn't even know you exist. And you're carrying around that anger for the rest of the day because some careless person. And so it doesn't hurt them. They don't even know you exist. It hurts you. That's that fear energy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. That's such a beautiful metaphor. So that is something that we should be doing every day and all the time. Because people talk about love all the time, because love is all there is, right? But it's walking that talk. That's always the important thing. And you need to remind yourself and remember that that's how it should be. Walk your talk, and love is all there is. So you managed to, so it's interesting as well how when you decided that you were so afraid and you decided enough is enough, that all your teachers came out and the books started falling into place. And it's just so beautiful the way the universe, when you're in the right space, just brings on all these things and just shows you the way. So eventually you found the way. So would you say that you found freedom, Norman?
Absolutely. And, but I was divinely guided. I didn't just pluck this out of the air.
Yes.
all, deepen your spirituality. One of the chapters in the book, there's only one path, and it's through the divine, no matter what you call God. Um, so I have found freedom, and it's not easy to build a hypnotherapy practice. I've had friends and family and significant others like, get a job. Like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. And I did for a while. I took a contract with the former client covering 16 Western states. So I was traveling around in state legislatures representing this company. And when I wasn't traveling or doing stuff for them, I was doing hypnotherapy on nights, weekends, squirreling away, hours here and there during the day. And I just was undeterred that this, and I've had just people say, wow, hypnotherapy, really? And I had this psychic friend who, she's like, I see, it's been good for you, but I see you somewhere else doing something else. I'm like, okay, maybe, but right now I see only hypnotherapy, and I've just stuck to it. And, it required me to, let's go back to fear for a second. When the cancer diagnosis and my marriage was falling apart, I had my 4,000 square foot house and the Porsches and the Italian suits and the identity is this, highfalutin lobbyist that you walk in the halls of the Capitol. And it was like, I was afraid that I was going to lose everything that I thought was so important. And in the end, none of that was important. And I made myself really small. And it feels really good that I have everything I need. I ride a motorcycle. I've got, it's like my kids, I'm super close to my kids. And, I have the opportunity I'm seeing about 20, 25 people a week now who leave my office better than they came. So what better, you know what I mean? And so I was once so fearful of losing all those things that I thought were important, and they really weren't. And that was the part of the lesson. That was part of the freedom. That was part of the divine guidance that riches take different forms.
Yes.
The book by Pablo Coelho, The Alchemist. In the end, he was seeking his personal treasure. And what exactly is your personal treasure? That's kind of the question you have to ask yourself. These materialistic things, and so my journey has taken me into total expansion. And so, I study Buddhism and Taoism. The Tao that can be known is not the true Tao. I am full in my emptiness. And you see, it's difficult for many people to hold paradox. It's an Eastern kind of approach, but I've learned about the universe. I studied tarot under a psychologist who's written 5 books on tarot and psychology. He's a Jungian analyst who studies archetypes, and the archetypes are right there in the cards. He's created his own deck called Tarot of the 9 Paths. And so I oftentimes use tarot in my hypnotherapy because, people, when I say we all have our own answers, we really do. We know ourselves better than, the subconscious mind keeps record of everything. Now, the conscious mind can't possibly sort it all out. It's just too much information. And so during the dream state, we vent a lot of this stuff. We just let it go. But we can access the subconscious mind, and it's through archetypes, right? Everyone knows the teacher or the hero or the magician, the priestess, the high priestess. I mean, these are all These are all archetypes that we know through our connection to the collective consciousness.
So I'd like to ask you also, how did you know that you were guided? Like a lot of we do know when we're guided, right? But how do you know? How do you know it's true guidance, or how do you know it's just your ego pushing you around?
Well, the ego pushed me around for 25 years. It was letting go of the ego that allowed me to accept the divine guidance. But I'll tell you, I'll share with you, excuse me, I'll share with you the story. So I had, when I had moved to Los Angeles, I had taken a job as the executive director of a trade association, very similar to what I had been doing before, you know. And I did that for a year. And then they didn't renew my contract because I began to work on their ethics. It's like, and so I had this experience on the day that I was going to the office where they met with me to tell me they weren't renewing my contract. Basically, I was being let go of. Yeah. I was walking out. I had a Jeep. I had built a big Jeep and I had a winch on the front. And I was walking out to the Jeep to get in to go to the office. And the winch activated.
Wow.
I had installed it myself. It's on the accessory. So goes, the power to the winch goes to the battery, but you have to have the key in and turned on. So I'm not even close to the Jeep. And it operated without the key. So I'm like, what was that? So I went, and then I got there and I'm like, wow, okay, that's a surprise. I had an hour to clean out my desk. And so I was reflecting on that. And so I went and I saw a psychic. Mm-hmm. And she said, and I've been sensitive all my life. I've had experiences that were difficult to understand for a kid on the ranch, riding rodeo and stuff. But there was a place on the creek where there was a Native American grinding holes, and I felt the energy just move quickly through. Don't stay in this place, right? So, anyway, she says, "Oh, you're so psychic, and you really need to learn about the archangels." So she taught me about the archangels, and I wrote them down on flashcards, and I was, learning about the archangels and what they represent, and so here I am. I wanted to put myself into the service of others after reading Wayne Dyer's The Power of Intention. And so I wrote a letter to Archangel Michael. Dear Archangel Michael, it's Norman Plotkin here. And I have mad skills. People have paid me millions of dollars. But I don't want to work for those people anymore. I want to put myself into the service of others, regular people. And I don't know how. So please guide me. Please help me understand a path to serving others. Mm. Very truly yours, Norman Plotkin. I took it in the backyard and lit it on fire and burned it. Mm-hmm. Then I came back in the house and I walked into my darkened bedroom, closed the door, sat in the middle of the bed and did japa meditation for 20 minutes. Namo Narayana, Namo Narayana, Namo Narayana, Namo Narayana. My chest was just resonating, right? And then you stop and there's a 5-minute cool down, so just sit and be quiet without the mantra. And as I sat there quiet and still, the most amazing, powerful, energetic presence I've ever experienced came down the hall, through the closed door and stood right next to me. And I'm like, wow. At first I'm like, I was afraid. And then I was made to know that there was no reason to be afraid. Hmm. And then just as quickly as it had come, it was gone. And I'm like, open my eye. And there was nothing there. And then, so I'm like, I called my psychic friend, Laura, what was it? She goes, wait, you wrote a letter to Archangel Michael, you did japa meditation, and the strongest energetic presence you ever experienced in your life showed up and you don't know who it is?
Wow.
And so within a week, I was shown to go to this hypnotherapy college. came up on my radar screen. And it happens, it's like breadcrumbs, right? So I was going to be a coach. I was going to be a life coach. And I was looking at these different programs to learn to be a life coach. And there was this husband and wife psychologist team in New Hampshire. And they said, here's, we got this, here's our story. And hypnosis is so powerful. And it's a really good adjunct to your coaching. It's like, and they told the story of this marketing campaign where because of a typo, there was this unexpected outcome. And so it was a music company, and the campaign was called Put Music Back in Your Life. But they inadvertently put an S at the end and puts music back in your life, as if it was being done for you. And it was wildly successful. And so this is the illustration that they use to show that if people think that it's being done for them, somehow you're magically using hypnosis to help them achieve their goals, then it's easier and they're more likely to do it. And I'm like, that's kind of interesting. Now, I didn't go to their school. There was a week-long deal in New Hampshire, and then I started researching hypnosis and hypnotherapy, and it turns out there's only nationally accredited school of hypnotherapy is right in the Valley in LA where I was living. And so I was guided, and just turned out I knew someone through a second hand that knew someone who knew someone, and I spoke to them. And so I mean, those are the signs that, for me, I know it. It's a knowing. It's a Claire Augustus, clairsentience. I mean, clairsentience. I have a knowing, but intellectually and logically, I can point to that series of events that made me feel like I was divinely guided, that somehow this is going to work, and that I should not abandon it, no matter how slow, how difficult, after I did the lobbying for that client, then I went to work for my publisher for 2 years, and I was an acquisition editor at the Author Incubator, and I did hypnotherapy around the edges again, right? And so I gained my mastery while I was, I paid the bills, and I gained mastery. And Gladwell says 10,000 hours of anything will make you a master, and I've far exceeded that now. 10,000 hours of doing hypnotherapy, and as a result, like I said, my practice is fairly full now.
That's such a beautiful story. But again, it boils down to, how do you trust yourself enough to trust the synchronicities?
There is magic in surrender.
Yes, but how do you do that? You have to accept that there's magic in surrender. I reached a point, like I just want to steer and white knuckle my way, and that doesn't work. That works in the material world, and you may or may not achieve some success. I did 25 years. I systematically got a government degree and got an internship that led to successively more responsible positions, until I worked my way to, then I took my body of knowledge and created a business. Yes.
And
you created your cancer as well while you were doing all that, which is quite interesting.
Exactly. But unless and until you know that, you'll kill yourself. You'll drive yourself into the ground. Yes. And it was coming to that realization that I created my cancers. We all create our cancers. It's unresolved stuff, and it's hard for people to hear. Not everybody. I have to be very careful about saying that when I work with cancer clients. So I help them arrive at it. But so what I did was I attended a Hay House conference in Pasadena in 2015. I saw Wayne Dyer speak. I saw Carolyn Meese, Joe Dispenza, Greg Braden, Dr. Brian Weiss, and a whole host of others. And so, and you know, their messages. Sonia Choquette, I think, was another one. Sacred Signs, and you just have to believe. You see, look, we're coming out of the Pisces era, that's been, you know, characterized by control and, you know, duality and conflict and paternalism and, you know, Newtonian mechanics and that materialism that it's, you know, cell, tissue, organ, system, you know, and we're moving out of that. That was a very male conflict, you know, and into Aquarius, which is very feminine and energy, and from Newtonian mechanics to the quantum field. In the quantum field, you see, science came along and said, boo to superstition and magic. And then the quantum field reminded us that there really is magic, because now we're able to observe subatomic particles like quarks and neutrinos. And when we do things like experiment to see if matter, like light, has a dual nature of both particle and wave, when we ask the experiment if it's a wave, it acts like a wave, and when we ask the experiment if it's a particle, it acts like a particle, giving rise to the observer effect, meaning we can influence matter. And we've also observed, you know, nonlinear, non-local, two molecules experiencing the same thing, not in the same place. So there is magic. And there are unseen forces. And we are electricity and water mostly. Mm-hmm. And we feel each other. This whole 6-foot social distancing thing is blah. Because that's where my heart energy picks up your heart energy. That's where I begin to feel you as another human being. We are all connected. When you're walking down the street and you look at somebody who's like, get a haircut, like, boom, you might as well just smack yourself, because you are them and they are you. You see, you have to understand that there is magic, that science is falling apart right now. It's like science and medicine will never be the same as a result of what we're experiencing right now. Yes. And so, without going too far into all of that, but so how do you know? You have to believe, you have to surrender, you have to. So that was one of the things since in early childhood, I notice everything. I know, I connect dots. In first grade, the teacher, if she said something that rhymed, she said, call it out. And she showed me the grade book. I had, it was all the way across and wrapped around, and, you know, just because I noticed every time she rhymed something. And so then growing up on the ranch, when you're off riding a horse, you have to pay attention. An animal could come out of the brush and spook the horse, and you end up bucked off, and the horse. So you have to pay very close attention. And so, so I'm always connecting dots. Mm-hmm. Observe the world around you. You see, we're so somewhere else. That was another great thing about meditation. I've always been very kind of observant, but the meditation has helped me just kind of sit with it and clear my mind and be present, be present right here, right now. The electronics have people, you know, they're driving the car, smoking pot and doing their phone all at the same time. You know, it's like, so that's why, you know, on the motorcycle, there's no time for any of that. I am completely present when I ride the motorcycle. So being present, seeing the signs around you. The universe is giving us answers all the time, all the time. We must merely have eyes to see and ears to hear. And gratitude and love in our heart.
Yes. So I know this is a contentious issue, so it's going to be a broad question about what's happening right now with all the fear. And I mean, that's huge. Everyone's so afraid they don't even know what to do about it, about themselves. For me, it feels like the universe is pushing people into looking at themselves and realizing that there's more to life than the money, the cars, and whatever it is. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's, I thought that the transition from Pisces to Aquarius would be unicorns and rainbows. But any transition is more like plate tectonics. And so people are being asked. And the control mechanisms of the Pisces age, the patriarchy and the institutions, they are crumbling. And they're spreading fear, because in fear you can control. Fear makes you suggestible. It puts you in fight, flight, or freeze, makes you suggestible. We have been, humans are born with a disproportionately large head compared to other animals who are up and walking within a day of their birth. Humans don't walk for a year or so, and they rely exclusively on the care of their caregivers. And they very soon realize that their survival depends on identifying with, and not all are loving and nurturing, and there are traumas. There are traumas we experience in childhood, and our survival depends on us identifying with our traumatizers. And so there's a lot of herd mentality, and they're going along with the herd, and they don't ask questions. They don't think. Like, if there's a 0.0004% chance that you're going to die, I mean, you're more likely to be struck by lightning. You're 100 times more likely to be killed in a car accident. Do we not get in the car? But fear creates control. And so there is mass hypnosis going on. So you need three things for a hypnotic modality: authority, a doctrine or a paradigm, and you have to feel something. So you see, here's my authority. The doctrine or paradigm is the hypnotic trance, and people feel when they are in my office, they feel relaxed. So let's look at a couple of other scenarios. Lab coat and stethoscope, medical books and medical school. Do you feel something when you go to the doctor? Not a good place to have your blood pressure taken.
Not at all.
Yeah. See, you could be happy that you get good results. You could be sad that you got bad. You could be afraid. That medicine is a hypnosis. How about this? The white collar, the good book, whether it's the Bible, the Torah, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, and you feel something in church. Many people sing and feel spiritual, right? That's hypnosis. How about this? Doctors Fauci and Birx, virology and epidemiology. Do you feel something? Most people are scared right now. This is hypnosis. And what's worse is now you have virtue signal. You got these people who are deeply hypnotized, who are criticizing others who aren't in the hypnosis and don't, that whole thing, right? Right? And so they're not following that. So now they're all like, oh, you're going to kill people. You're going to kill my grandma. And that's just part of the hypnosis. And so what I tell everybody, bring love in your heart. You see, as Pisces to Aquarius, 3-dimension to the 5th dimension. The 3rd dimension is height, width, depth. 4th dimension adds time, and the 5th dimension adds energy. And the key to ascending from the 3rd dimension to the 5th dimension is love and compassion. We've been ruled by fear.
Yes.
It's everywhere. We're in a militarized state. Terrorism fearful cops on the street, military, fear, control. Love and compassion, we transcend all of that. And so there are some who will not make the transition from 3D to 5D. There are some who won't make the transition from Pisces to Aquarius. And we're seeing that. These are folks, it's just too much for them. They don't understand it. They don't accept it. They don't grasp it. I'll tell you, it's not easy. I mean, I was born in 1964. It was a very different world. It was just 20 years after World War II. And from 64, actually from 45 to 95, the world was pretty much the same.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the internet came and began to change things. And in the 26 years since the internet, it's really, really weird and different.
Wonderful, though.
Yeah, I mean, there are some wonderful aspects of it, but there are also some freaky and dangerous aspects as well. So the key to ascension is love and compassion.
I love that. So that's your advice. People, just love and compassion.
Love and compassion. That's right. And, I listen. So you said an important thing, and that is that we're being asked to look at ourselves. I've been criticized by cynical psychologists for engaging what they call spiritual bypass, meaning, if we just have love, it'll all be right. And so there is some responsibility on our parts, and that is to look at ourselves, to examine ourselves. It's not enough just, it's like the Christian who does terrible things that says, but I'm forgiven. The person who has love in their heart, but doesn't examine their own shadow, it doesn't work that way. You have to do the work. You have to do the examination. You have to live a life of love and compassion.
Walk your talk. Yes, I have to just. It always was very interesting to me as well. Especially, you people. You go back, if you look at The Sopranos, for example. Just like we'll use that example, the series, where the Don, he kills people during the week, and then on Sunday he goes to mass, and then all is forgiven. It's such an interesting metaphor as well. So yes. I think also this whole fear thing has got a lot to do with responsibility. It's so difficult for some people to take that responsibility. It's easier to just point fingers and say, hey, it's your fault because you're not wearing a mask and you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. It's never my fault. So I think this kind of energy hopefully can shift all that too. And just realize, wow, if we all take responsibility and we all look at ourselves and we all, live with love rather than fear, huge difference we all make to ourselves and others, right? Norman, this has been awesome. Where can people find you? Before I ask you, where can people find you?
Yeah, my website is my name, www.normanplotkin.com. On Facebook, it's Norman Plotkin Inc. I'm on Instagram as well, Norman Plotkin CHT.
I love that. Thank you. One more thing, Norman, you've lived like a huge life, and you've done so many things, and you've experienced the wealth. And what difference do you want to make in the world?
I'm making it. If one person breathes easier, a happy child, a redeemed social quality, a garden patch. There's a wonderful quote by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I'm torturing it right now, but it's called this has been to be a success. I think is what it's called, but to endure false critics and win good friends. These are the kind of things. The difference the difference I'm striving to make right now is to bring the power of hypnotherapy to mind. Back to your point just a moment ago, people externalize things. He did, she said, the government, the Rona. It's not outside of you. All we can control is our inner world.
Yes.
And I'm helping people get a handle on their inner world, one person at a time. And soon I'll be speaking from the stage, and I want to really share the message of how powerful hypnotherapy is and how it can help people without drugs in an organic, non-invasive way, and to really help empower them to be in control of their inner world.
I love that. Oh, thank you, Norman. This has been awesome. I could probably speak to you for another hour. So we'll have to have a follow-up on this one. Thank you so much. Are there any thoughts out there before we wrap up for just the audience?
Yeah, take to heart. We all have our own answers. Be quiet and still for the first 10 minutes of every day. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day, and 90% of them are the same as yesterday. And if you take 10 minutes at the beginning of your day before that onslaught of repetitive thoughts, and just be quiet and still. Prayer is when we talk to the divine. Meditation is when we receive answers. Take that 10 minutes for yourself. Take responsibility for yourself. Go inward. Get to know who you are, and you will reflect better on the outer world, and you'll be more of an influence on the outer world when you are in full possession of your inner world. And love and compassion is the key. Love in your heart space drives out fear.
Thank you. On that note, that is pretty awesome. Thank you, Norman. And I think everyone needs to go and find Norman Plotkin and go and see. This is beautiful. This is like the real stuff. Go and check him out, read his books, and go and check him out on social media. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Norman. This was really awesome. And we'll see you soon, I am sure. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Carina.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. And thank you for listening right to the end. Now, if you want to know more about breaking fear and if it's keeping you stuck, check out the quiz. The details are below. Subscribe so you can hear some more of this delicious conversations. And then watch out for my book, The Clank of Chains, which is coming out very soon. Thank you again for being here, and we will see you next time. Bye.